Hi there, gorgeous! Hope you're having a fabulous day. So nice to see you again. In today's video, I wanted to share the top 7 blending tips that will change how you do your eyeshadow if you are not already doing these. These are tips that I have discovered through trial and error over the past, 10 years that I've been teaching myself how to do makeup. And some of them you've heard me talk so many times about before, so it's going to be a little bit of redundancy if you've watched a lot of the videos, but there are also some new tips that I've never shared before that I wanted to do a comprehensive video about. And I'll be showing you examples of each one I'll be talking about today and how you can incorporate them in for the best, most professional looking results. First tip I have to share with you is one that I've talked about so many times before, and it's been really helpful for a lot of people, so it had to be included within this video, and that is to use an eyeshadow that matches your skin tone as a base before you apply any eyeshadow on your eyes. I typically will apply this all over the brow bone, down into the crease, and what this does is it helps to create a smooth surface for the eyeshadow to glide onto, and it makes the eyeshadow apply more evenly. It looks a lot better when you have done this step beforehand, and it makes blending a breeze. If you do not have an eyeshadow that matches your unique skin tone, you can also use translucent powder. That works just as well. Second tip I have to share with you: apply your makeup in natural, indirect sunlight. I feel like this is one of those tips that gets so often overlooked, and people seem to think they need to go out and buy all these wonderful lights to apply their makeup, and I can just tell you, with all the studio lighting that I have and everything else, when I'm not filming or I'm not on camera, I'm applying my makeup in natural, indirect sunlight because it makes for the best possible application. It shows you everything, and you can see everything up close. I am so sorry, I thought I turned this off. And just to give you an up-close example of that, if you look at my face here in natural sunlight and you look at it under studio lights, you can see the difference, how much more detail you can see in the natural daylight, which is why I try to show my finished looks in natural daylight as much as possible, because I feel like studio lights really don't do them justice. And the same is true when you're applying your makeup. And that brings up a good point too. If you have to apply your makeup in an environment where you don't have natural sunlight, let's say you're getting up at like 5 a.m. and you have to go to work, I would just suggest getting daylight bulbs, the ones that have the most true color to them. They have several of those out there now, and that was what I used when I had to get up really early in the morning and I had to do my makeup. I still got really great results. It wasn't my most favorite way to apply my makeup, but at least I could see everything and I knew that everything was going to look good by the time that I stepped out into natural daylight. So there are true color daylight bulbs that you can buy that you can install very easily. Let's talk about brushes. I feel like brushes are ultimately what will make or break your look in the end. I mean, some people are really gifted when it comes to using their fingers and other tools, but brushes are one of those universal makeup tools that really can give you those top-notch professional results. And in the past few years that I've taught myself makeup application, I learned that there was a certain type of brush that was the best for blending, and I'll show you up close here what I mean. When you're looking for a blending brush, I would highly recommend looking for a brush that has medium length but tightly packed, very dense bristles. And so the brushes I'm showing you here are the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe No. 5 brush and the AOA Studio E129 brush. And you can see that they're very similar between the two of them in the shape of the bristles and how densely packed they are. Tremendous price difference between the two. You do not need to spend a lot of money on brushes at all. I was under the assumption when I first started makeup that I had to spend all this money on brushes, and I got very overwhelmed very fast, but over the years it turned out to be, oh my gosh, no, you just need the right shape of brush. So the IT Cosmetics one, I don't think it's available anymore, like I said, is the higher end one. The AOA Studio one is $1. You can find this on Shop Miss A's website, and it's one of my go-to brushes. So even if you can't find either one of these right now, if you just look for a brush that has this kind of shape, I think you'll be most impressed with the results that you get. And the reason why that densely packed brush is so important for blending is because if you use a brush, let's say like this, you can see how long the bristles are in this one compared to the shorter, more densely packed bristles in the It Cosmetics brush. Using something like this turns out to be really floppy when you're using it, and you don't get a focused blend. You can blend with a brush like this, but it's probably not going to look as good, and it might take you a little longer to achieve the results that you would get with a brush like this, which is why I say that these just cut your blending time in half, and they're so easy and they create such beautiful results. So definitely pay attention to the brush shape because it does make a huge difference. Another tip that I want to share with you, I've got it all on my phone here, on my notes. Okay, less is more. Rule of thumb right here. You can always add. It's a lot harder to subtract. And I feel like this is what sets you up for blending. If you apply way too much eyeshadow, then it can be really hard to blend out and it can look really uneven very fast. And I'm showing you that here with a really dark eyeshadow on the eyes where I applied way too much. It's going to blend out, but it's not going to be as nice as the side where I applied a lot less. So just remember, you can always build slowly, blend, build a little bit more, blend, and the results will look a lot more professional, a lot better in doing it that way. And the darker the eyeshadow is that you're using, the less you want to use also. So if you're using a medium toned shade for your skin tone, don't worry about applying too much because you probably can't apply too much with a shade like that. It's when you go to those more darker shades is when you really want to hold back on applying more and focus on applying less. Next tip I have to share with you. Applying too much of your base shade can muddy the eyeshadow and make it look uneven, and then you get a really weird blend. And I tried to create this so you can see what I'm talking about, but basically when you apply your crease color, if you go back with the base shade that you used in the very beginning, you can end up muddying that crease color and changing it into this grayish color, and it can completely change the color of the eyeshadow and it can look very unflattering. This was something I discovered about midway through teaching myself eyeshadow application, is that the way that I do it now is I don't add any product to the brush. What I'll do is I'll apply my blending shade first, and then I will take the residual from the brush and use that for blending all throughout my eyeshadow application. Now there may be times in the eyeshadow application where you feel like you need to add a little bit of your blending shade back in to blend, say, a little bit of a harsher edge, and that's totally fine, but just be careful with how much you're using, and you definitely don't want to glop it on. I would say rely on more or less what's in the brush itself to continue your blending so you don't end up with a muddy mess, which I can't even tell you how many times that happened to me. Another tip I have to share with you for the best possible blending results is don't be afraid to go back and forth. I know a lot of tutorials here on YouTube, mine included, cut out so much of the process, and you see this small snippet of application and blending and you think that's it. And that's our fault, and I apologize that you see that and you think that's all there is, because it's really not. There's so much blending sometimes involved in a look. And I do have a real-time eyeshadow tutorial that I did a couple years ago that I know many people found really helpful, so you could see the entire process of how much goes into a look sometimes. And it's sometimes a lot of back and forth. So you apply your crease shade, then you apply another shade, and you're blending those two, and then you're blending out the edges, and you're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And sometimes that's what it takes. So don't be afraid to go back and forth, and just have patience with yourself, because it is a learning process, but you'll get through it. I mean, if I can figure it out, you definitely can figure it out. Trust me. Last tip I have to share with you is one that I feel like I've talked about this a couple times, but I'm going to mention it because I feel like it's such an excellent tip when you are starting to learn how to blend and get the best possible results on your eyes. And it's very simple. All I do sometimes when I'm applying my eyeshadow is I will tilt my head back and I'll look in the mirror at my eyes like that to see if everything is blending correctly. And it makes such a difference. I can't tell you how many times I have caught mistakes, areas that were a little too harsh, areas that needed more diffused edges, just simply by tilting my head back and looking at my eyelids in a different angle. It shows you everything. So keep that in mind next time you're doing your eyeshadow. So I hope you found this helpful today, and if you have a blending tip that has helped you tremendously in improving your makeup application skills, I hope that you will share it below in the comments, because it can help someone else who may be reading through the comments looking for tips and ideas. And I can't even tell you how many times your comments have helped someone else. So I always welcome them. I truly appreciate them. Thank you for sharing your expertise and for helping out our fellow women, because that's why we're here. Thank you for being here, for taking the time to watch, and look forward to seeing you again next time.